Happy New Year!
Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome to 2025.
Wait a minute. But does that mean we have to wrap up our year and tell people what our favorite games were?
Yes, of course. I know you've all been waiting probably about 12 months to find out what our favorite games of 2024 were.
All right, so let's talk about our top 10 new to us board games from 2024. Welcome to WiscoDice! Hey, yo, folks, I am your host, the Conesy with the Most, and I am joined today by...
Hey, I'm Suzanne.
Hey, all right, and you know what? It is 2025. It is time to start looking ahead, but before we look completely ahead, it's time to take one step back and look back at all of the wonderful games that we got to try for the first time in 2024.
Yes, so these are games that may not have come out in 2024, but were new to us for our first play in 2024.
Absolutely.
Yes, but before we get into this list, we need you to do one very important thing. It is to smash that like button and also subscribe if you haven't already, so that we know to keep making content for you.
Yep, ring that bell and leave a comment down below what your favorite games were in 2024.
Yes, maybe they'll be on our new to us favorite 2025 list.
Yeah, we always like finding new games. So let's start out with game number 10. So for game number 10, I think we have a tie here. Both of us found the same game to be our number 10. This game was provided to us as a review copy, so but I don't think that we've skewed that at all, and
no,
it certainly wasn't a game I would have picked up at all, though, if it wasn't a review copy. So I'm really glad that we were able to get a copy of it. But what is the game?
Well, this game is Pixies by Pandasaurus Games.
Yeah.
And this is a game that proves that great things can come in very small boxes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very small box. It's basically just a deck of cards with some really unique art on the cards.
Oh my gosh, it's adorable art too.
And I'm not sure if I'm super into the art style, but the gameplay I'm really sucked into, and I really enjoy this.
You love this.
It's played exceptionally well at 2 players. Now the problem is that one of the things that maybe would shift up a little bit on this list, or maybe shift down for this list, if we had played it at more than 2 players. So. Yeah. But we found it as a great little game to pick up and play the 2 of us if we need to kill a little time, or we're waiting between games, maybe at a convention or a show, or when we go out or something like that.
It's the size that can easily fit in your bag. Like, no problem. You won't even know it's there, so you can just flip it out. I think it'd be a great game to play with kids, too.
I mean, we do have upcoming planned content for this game because it is a review copy, so stay tuned to the channel to find out more about Pixies from Pandasaurus Games. Game number 9.
All right, game number 9. This is where we start differing and going our separate ways.
Yeah.
So what do you have, Conesy?
So I've got Metro Runner from Thunderworks Games. This game is a absolute blast. It's their first game in their kind of cyberpunk universe of Mirror City, where you're basically going around the board on a giant rondel, there's only like 3 or 4, I think 4 different core actions, and then if you're playing the 4 or 5 player game, there's a 5th action that's very straightforward. Easy to understand, easy to teach. People are able to get into playing it. A number of our friends, after we've introduced this game to them, have went out and bought copies of it. So it's not just us saying it. Like when people play a game that we introduce them to and then they immediately have to go out and buy a copy for themselves, that's usually a great compliment on the game. The other thing is with Metro Runner, it's got this really cool little 9-tile weird hacking puzzle thing that you can do as one of the actions is a hack action where you get to manipulate that puzzle and try to create paths through the puzzle, and that's where everybody at the table seems to get together and be like, yeah, I want to try to solve that puzzle. I suspect this game is going to be on your list somewhere. I know that you really like it, so I've probably over-talked it up at this point.
I'm just going to say, if you've listened to our podcast, you know where this is on my list.
So, perfect. So, what is your game number 9?
So, my game number 9 is one I had seen on crowdfunding and then kind of missed backing it, but then they reached out to us and I picked up a copy at Gen Con as a review copy, so we will more content coming out on that one, but it is an age contrived by Bellows Intent.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy this game. It's got a unique mechanism where your actions kind of slide down and how you can pick the actions based on what tiles that you have. I love building things and love seeing things kind of come alive and not be super two-dimensional on the game table. And so you are like kind of building these different monuments and stuff as you go around the board. So it's we've played it a few times at different player counts.
Yeah, I've got 3 plays. I think I've played it.
Yeah, and I just really I like the game. I like the components, and keep an eye out for some more content.
Yeah, we'll be doing a full review of that one upcoming in 2025. Game number 8. All right, so for game number 8, I have a game that's on a lot of the hotness lists, a lot of top 10s this year for games that came out in 2024. And that is Arcs from Leader Games. I think when I first played this, I thought this was going to be my game of the year, but after playing it at more players, kind of fell off a bit for me. Now I really like Root from Leader Games, which is their kind of fantasy 40s first critters kind of game. This is their kind of sci-fi, trying to be a space opera. It's very aggressive, and what I think I found when I was playing it more players was that if you overextend or make a mistake or get ganged up on, it could be very detrimental and punishing to you as a player, and that was a big drawback to me. It was very hard to recover from those kind of things. Yep. I want to play this again at a full player count just to experience that again, but that did leave me a little bit of a sour note in taste in my mouth after the last time I played, which is why it's dropped down pretty significantly. But it's still a really cool game with some very unique, innovative mechanisms to try to pull off the space opera, space galaxy kind of experience in a. I would love to say shorter experience, but it seems like it's a 3 to 4 game at full, or 3 to 4 hour game at full player count.
Yeah, and I'll say for a lot of the reasons that Conzi just mentioned, it fell off my top 10 list. And I like fighty attacky games. But anyway, my number 8 is one that the player count is 1.
1?
Yep.
Just 1?
Yep, 1. I had one of my resolutions this year was to play a lot more solo games, and I'm finding I really enjoy them. I enjoy playing games with other people too. But this is Gloomhaven Buttons and Bugs by Suffler Games. And it's Gloomhaven in miniature, kind of, and it's solo. And it's just in this cute little box, and it's, just kind of this fun little attacky, do your own thing, and has a little story with it.
I mean, I wouldn't mind giving it a try. I know that you were much more of a solo gamer than I am. I have many other hobbies and things to do with occupy my time. So usually it's really low on my list of things to do is grab a board game and play it by myself. But
this one does not take much setup. It takes less setup time than Final Girl does. And it scratches the Gloomhaven, Frosthaven itch, which is, I really enjoy those games.
Game number 7. For game number 7, I've got a game that actually came out in 2023, but it came out at Essenspiel in Germany in October when Essenspiel is happening. And it didn't show up or was available to us here in the States until 2024. So I kind of count this for us, like those games that come out at Essen, and we don't have access to for 2 or 3 months until they hit the States. I like to kind of consider those as 2024 releases anyways for us. But this game is Evacuation from Delicious Games. It is a game where you are trying to get your population and your factories and your industry from a dying world to a new planet, and you have 4 years, aka game rounds, to actually get that done. You're competing against other players to try to be the most successful corporations effectively to do this transition. I've really enjoyed every play I've had of it. Wish I would have had more time to play this game more times, but there's a lot of games that are on the docket, and the fact that I played this multiple times this year.
If you just stop sleeping at night, we can get a lot more games in.
That is true. That is true. But that is Evacuation from Delicious Games.
All right, my number 7 ups the player count from my last game by 1. We are at a 2-player game. Beer and Bread by Capstone Games.
Very good game.
It was designed really well to play for 2-player. It does not take a ton of time again to set up. It's an appropriate amount of time to set up for 2 players. It feels like a very complete game. There's no AI, no, other thing trying to go. You need to do things in the game that are going to help the other person because you need them to do things that are going to help you. So it's just a nice 2-player game that can be competitive, but at least in our experience, it's not one that I can see you being like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be mad at you because you took X, Y, and Z actions. So anyway, that is Beer and Bread by Capstone.
Game number 6. All right, for game number 6, we have 2 games that are going to be from the same publisher, but are different games. My game is going to be Windmill Valley, where you tiptoe through the tulips, getting your various things, manipulating the gears. This is a game that I looked at and went, I don't need to play this game. I don't need to own it. The theme doesn't do anything for me. The box art is all pretty and light and whatever. I just had zero interest in it, but you were dead set. You were going to get this game at Gen Con. We got it. I did look at it at Gen Con. I'm like, this looks more intriguing than just the box art and the initial, because I just kind of wrote it off based on the box art. I'm really glad we did pick it up. We played it. It's been played a couple of different times. I did not expect that game experience to be that good. So Windmill Valley, Board and Dice, another big crunchy Euro game on the list.
All right, so my number 6, also from Board and Dice, is SideQuest Nemesis. So this is kind of an escape room style game.
It is.
Set in the Nemesis universe, and we do really enjoy Nemesis, the game. And this one we played through when we were quarantining, when we had COVID this year. But it was just a lot of fun to play, and it was a nice cooperative, puzzly, thinky game.
Yeah,
and it's real quick. It's an escape room style game that is totally possible to get through. Like it's got hints,
and you can reset it, put it back together, and somebody else can play it. Right?
Yes.
It's not like it's completely disposable. It is. Nemesis is an Awakened Realms property, so this is a great collab where the side quest series of little escape room games from Board and Dice have taken a IP, a property from another publisher, and basically created a very cool, very touchable 3D experience that's in a small, relatively low cost owned escape room game. I had a lot of fun. Really captured that Nemesis theme the whole time you're playing it. So we definitely recommend you check that out. Game number 5. So game number 5 is a game that we just recently got to the table for the very first time. This is a game is on one of the other hosts on the audio shows. It was his game of the year, but we had never had a chance to play it until just very recently, and that is Andromeda's Edge from Cardboard Alchemy. This is a big map kind of game with... but combat's...
It's a big board. The map itself is pretty small. There's tracks on the other end.
Yeah, the tracks are almost as big as the map.
Bigger. There's,
But there's technologies, different technologies. There's different tracks you're going up.
It's all well-used space.
But it's really just a worker placement game at its heart, being this... but then being wrapped into this big space exploration combat kind of game where you're basically going to places on the map. Those are then going to activate that location, and you're really not restricted by how you move onto the map when you're moving, other than you have, like, for your first moves, you can go anywhere you want, but then you're a little bit restricted based on the distance between
can launch from one to another.
Yeah. So you have to be kind of like, once you place, now you have to kind of take actions reasonably close until you start getting some of the bigger ships unlocked.
Yeah, and I'll say I enjoy this game a lot. It does not waste the space on the board. Like there's nothing that I would say could be shrunk down to make it, smaller or anything like
absolutely.
that. You need this space. It would probably have made my top 10 if I had played it more than once.
Yeah.
Because all of my games on my list, I have definitely played 3-4 times mostly, except for my number 5.
Yeah.
So my number 5 I only played once. And there's a really good reason for it.
Yeah. So what is your game number 5?
My game number 5 is Inventions by Eagle Griffin Games. So this is Vitalis started game.
Yeah.
Okay. Large game that you are like large table presence where you are having an invention go from idea all the way through to being implemented and expanded upon. It is one that took us several times reading through the book,
watching how to play videos,
and then just getting through it. Now that I've gotten through it once, I feel like I could teach the game and help people play it.
I'm glad you feel that way. I still don't feel like I could teach the game.
I really enjoy the game, and I will do better at it next time. But it is also a longer duration game, not forever, a couple hours.
I think the longest part of the duration, we spent less time playing this game than we spent learning how to play the game, which is very common for us for especially big box games like a Lacerda game, where it's like...
The iconography is unique to the game.
Exactly.
And so that's the hardest thing is just kind of understand that. But once I had all the components out in front of me and understood what the different iconography did and how it translated around the game board, that it's not bad at all. Like
the mechanisms are not anything like the mechanisms
like
are all the same
action,
types of mechanisms. There is this definite serious order of operations kind of. You do this, then you have to do these things.
Which is good for me.
It's also, but yes, the unique iconography makes it like, okay, now how do I relate that mechanism to something else that I've played on a different game? Because the iconography is so drastically different, and it's very unique and thematic to that game. But I also think it's part of what ramps up some of these Lacerda games by really having Ian O'Toole, who's the artist, kind of go crazy and really come up with some crazy, unique thematic art for the game and the game experience.
Which I really liked the artwork on here. It's very, it's not in your face anything. It shows what you need. It's got its own little style to it. It takes a long time to set up this game, which is, I think...
I don't know that it... Anyways, we'll talk about this game more later in this
but I
video.
Want to keep talking about it now.
So let's move on. That's Inventions, Evolution of Ideas from Eagle Griffin Games. Game number 4. So game number 4 is going to be Clank Catacombs from Direwolf Games. This is I think this was a 2023 release. It is the latest installment of the Clank franchise. But what it does that makes it my favorite variant of Clank is that it has a map that is never consistent. So you can never kind of like base Clank, you just get that map and it's always the same map experience. So you have the deck building component to Clank, but you kind of get to know not only the cards, which cards you want to buy from the deck, and which cards you're like, I don't really care about those cards. But you also get to know the map and know what the optimum path is to get to the best loot and then get out. Like you really do that.
This one you can get kind of almost feel like you're trapped if you don't pull the right cards from your deck.
Oh yeah,
to get past monsters and stuff.
I feel like it puts a bigger emphasis on movement, and the map has a lot of unique things going on. The tiles all do different things, and that lets them add extra new little mechanisms into the game, like the ghost tile mechanism and a few other things that makes it very challenging and interesting to really plan your game, and also then that push your luck experience of the Clank games in the Clank franchise. So I think it's the best possible outcome for a Clank game. I really am excited. We did get the expansion. We've got that to the table now to play it as well. I'm looking forward to getting more content and really expanding out our Clank universe just on this game.
Yeah, I'll say I really like deck builders. I enjoy this Clank game. It probably would have been my honorable mention. If we did like top 11, it probably would have been in it. So My number 4 is a game that's been out for quite a while, but it's new to me this year. We've had it on our shelf for a while too, and just had never played it because I don't know, thought that was going to be more intimidating than it was. I'm not really sure.
I don't know. It just
We got it as a used copy, and it was a really great deal. And we got it and put it on the shelf and went to Shiny New, and it kind of got forgotten about. But it is Nussforge. So I'm probably saying that wrong. By Lookout Games.
There's a D at the end, not a G.
Well,
Nussforge.
By Lookout Games. And we were introduced to this by some other gamers at a game day at a Wilden Distilling here in Madison area. And I was like, we have this game. I want to learn how to play it. I think I've played it probably 3 or 4 times.
2 or 3 times now it's been played.
It's been at least 3 times for me that I have played it. And it's just nice and fun. And there's different paths. And if you kind of screw up, there's always something else that you can do. I don't know. I find it actually kind of a relaxing game while being competitive at the same time. I mean, you've got your daycare center of the elders.
They're just yelling at you
and telling you what to do. And if you play this game with me, you know that I make up little stories for my whole little village that I am working on.
I think it's kind of fun, right? I mean, there's a lot of really cool aspects to the Nussforge, and I'm really glad we finally got it to the table.
Yep, so that was my number 4.
Game number 3. Game number 3 is going to be Nucleum from Board and Dice. So this is not probably the last time Board and Dice will show up on this list, although I think this is the last unique game on the list for Board and Dice. Nucleum is another big Euro-style game where your nuclear power, instead of being discovered early 1900s, it's discovered in the Victorian age. And so now you're trying to mine uranium and get it to these nucleum plants to be able to generate power, and then you have to create railways and rail networks to get from mines and to where the nucleum plants are, and then ultimately you need power buildings.
Yeah.
So it's interesting kind of. It doesn't feel like Power Grid, but there's a lot of similarities to theme to Power Grid that I find in it. But it's a bigger, heavier game. Like, I think the actions are very straightforward. All you're really doing is either placing a rail or reclaiming all of your rails.
You have the tiles with your actions on it. Yeah. Those are the rails, and you're placing those, and that tells you what you can do. And you can do, depending on where you place them, you get 1 or 2 actions, and you get inventions. So there's things you can unlock. We've always, it's asymmetric abilities to some extent, which is really nice. So you're not all trying to do the same thing.
And it's got all of this color everywhere, right? I mean, it's
not
like
one
of the things a lot of the old T-Series boarding dice games were very bland, very manila colored, very in that kind of classic Euro theme. This is like, hey, we discovered that there are other colors in the world, and reds and purples and greens and boom. It really helps set the game. It gives it a great table presence. It's an absolute blast to play. I love the mechanisms. It's a big thinky game. That is Nucleum from Board and Dice.
All right, so mine, you want to talk about color and wow factor. You just have to open up the box of River of Gold by Office Dog. And the thing that blew me away is that there's a shiny gold insert in there. The insert is not very practical, but it's pretty. So
if there's one drawback, it's the insert stinks for putting the game back in the box.
Yeah. But
it's so pretty.
I played this for the first time at a friend's house. We used his copy. And then a couple of us, there was about 3 of us that played it. None of us had played it before. It was easy enough to figure out and kind of teach on the go.
Oh, it's got some unique mechanisms, right? Because you're
going down the river. You can you have a die that you roll, and then it tells, based on the number of the die, there's 3 actions you can take, and it's either you're sailing, you're building, or you're delivering goods. And then depending on what you have available to you and what other people choose to do a little bit, at least with their building and sailing, is going to impact you. And because when you build a building, if someone else stops at it, you're going to get a resource. And, there's some competition to be the first to achieve certain goals. I've always played it with the clan leaders. that
Sure.
give you a little
more asymmetric.
a little bit. Gives you like a little goal, like, hey, mine really wants to build. Mine really wants to sail. Which helps that we're not all trying to do the same thing. But,
I really like the dice mechanism where and you're rolling it at the end of your turn, so you have like your
Time to
whole,
plan.
like, while everybody else is doing things to kind of try to work out what you want to do for that action. I mean, that can also be a double-edged sword where you're like, I need a 2, I need a 2 so I can do that. Oh, I rolled a 4.
There are ways to mitigate that.
There
though.
are, but if
you set yourself up right, you don't have to worry about it too much. Like, that has rarely been an issue for me. And I've played this, I think, at least 4 times now.
Well, that is River of Gold from Office Dog Games. Game number 2. So for game number 2, this is going to go back to something that I believe this was an Essenspieler release for 2022.
And we saw Prototype.
At Gen Con 2022.
22 or 23?
No, it was 23. 23. No, it was 22. Maybe it was 23. I don't know.
23.
Yeah, I don't know. Years are hard. But anyways, we did pick this up. Yeah, it was 23. You're right. And this game got to the table several times. I was looking at the other day going, I'm playing on game nights, and I'm like, I really want to play this game. I haven't played it in a while. And that is Kutnahora, The City of Silver from CGE. I love this game. It's the board is kind of this dark board, and you have these kind of gray silver tiles, but it's got these kind of really cool like market boards that sit up, and action selection is neat, and how you're building out these mines and building this town above the mines the whole time you're playing it. And like I said, there's a lot of like just little eye candy for a game that's like kind of this black, silver, kind of dark looking game. Aesthetically, it has a number of these things that make you go, ooh, I'm really interested in what that is. What is that game? That visually make you very intrigued.
Yeah.
Within the game mechanisms, it's another crunchier game on the list that I really like, and it's been a little while since I played it, but I was looking at it on the shelf and going, oh, I have to get this back on the table. So it's coming out to a game night or something fairly soon, I think.
And I'll say, as much as Conzi's saying it's like this black, silvery gray, it does not look dark and imposing and monochromatic on the table.
No,
it has a nice table presence. Like those lack of vibrant colors in a way, it accents the game. Like it makes it still works very well. Anyway, my number 2 is one that was on Cozy's list already. It is Windmill Valley by Board and Dice. I stalked the Board and Dice booth at Gen Con waiting for a copy to be released pretty much every day, which I got to meet some fabulous people that were also doing the same. So that was just, it's tulips and windmills, and I love tulips, and I really enjoy windmills. One day I will go and see the tulips and windmills where, in their natural habitat. But I like the action mechanism on here, where your windmill gears turn, and one gear has more actions on it than the other, so you never have the exact 2 actions lining up, and you choose one of them, and you can upgrade these wheels so you could have more, and there's just different strategies that you can use when you play the game. And I haven't found a real strategy that is like completely detrimental. Like, hey, if you do this, you're going to auto lose. So I really enjoy it. And there's tulips in it. Mm-hmm. So anyway.
No, that is Windmill Valley from Board and Dice.
All right. What's your number 1?
Game number 1. So game number 1, both of these games for our number 1s, we've already talked about on this list. They were on other people's selections, or it was on your list. Other people. There's only 2 of us in the room. Crazy. How many other people are in here? All right, but my game is going to be Inventions, Evolution of Ideas from Eagle Griffin Games, the big crunchy Euro from Vitel Lacerda that came out this past year. I was a Kickstarter backer. I looked at this game. I'm like, oh, the theme, everything. We only own 2 other Lacerda games. We own On Mars, this one, and Weather Machine. The only 3 Lacerda games we own.
We need to get some more of those, I think.
I really like Lacerda games, but like the challenge almost always for us is that because of the learning curve, we tend not to get them out very often. Because we just, especially now that we're in the reviewer space even more, we need to cycle through more games.
They don't work for game nights, and we do lots of game nights and game days too, and that's how we get
our game night audience typically would not probably be I would say there are people who would enjoy this game, but it's not necessarily.
Anyways, why is it made your number one though?
Why did it pick up my number one? I think it's the most complete game, and that came out in 2024. Like most complete. It may not be my favorite game, absolute favorite game of the year to play, but it is the most complete, thought through, complete game in the box. Very excellent. Mechanisms all work. It's one of my favorite Lacerda games I've played, and that's going up against games like On Mars and Venus. So it really captured the feel of the evolutions of ideas that hey I had this idea and then we invent it and then we can have some collaboration.
And you have to have other people work on the idea. One person cannot take the idea from initial idea all the way up to expanding on it in the game. It takes other people to do it. Yes, because you cannot have, if yours is on this side of the idea, you can't also have it on this side.
Something like that. I don't remember everything.
This side,
like,
and that's when you
clearly
look at the
remember
game,
the game better than I do from like the rules, mechanisms, and
this
whatnot.
This would have been higher on my list if we had played it more than once.
Yeah, and that's the challenge. That is the challenge with like some of these bigger, heavier games. Is oftentimes if the learning curve is a bit of a struggle, it can be a challenge to get it up. It was our goal to be our first board game we played on this new table.
It was the first board game that touched the new table.
It was the first board game that got played. We played D&D on the table, but it sat like the toppers were on it, and we were like whatever.
But anyway, so that was Inventions, Evolution, Ideas. And then my number one is Metro Runner by Thunderworks Games, which Conzi had earlier in his list. And if you haven't listened to our podcast where we go through with the other WiscoDice hosts and recap our top games of the year, you definitely should, because you get some other people's thoughts on this game too. Justin and Matt had some thoughts. But this was my top game of the year because it's the game that I can get out and teach people, and we all have a blast playing it. Those that are maybe like prefer lighter games and those that maybe prefer slightly crunchier games all seem to enjoy an aspect of this game. You can socialize while you're playing it too. Yeah, and it's not delaying the time on it. I like the cyberpunk theme. I like this Mirror City universe. It's just a nice game that I can see maybe won't get played as much in the coming years, but that we'll still keep getting it out to play, and in 5, 10 so years from now, it's still one that could come out and you can read through the instructions real quick and play it.
That is like one of the great things I love about like Thunderworks Games and a lot of these publishers now is that they're putting a great set of mechanisms in a game that lets you really embrace the game while you're playing it and give it great replayability. But also, they're not overloading it. Unlike my choice, Inventions, yes, it's a very complete game. It's a very, very heavy learning curve. It's very satisfying while you play it. Very enjoyable as a game. But it is such a challenge to kind of table because of those factors, and it plays a little longer, whereas a game like Metro Runner, which is almost the exact opposite. Very straightforward iconography, very straightforward game rules and mechanisms, but there's tons of replayability. So and this is a good example, like this is a game that we got to the table probably 4, 5, 6 times. Other people have went out and bought it right away because they're able to get into it right away versus okay, I need to play it a second time before I really now that I played it for the first time, now I have to play it a second time just to try to now play it strategically. They can play it strategically right away.
It's a great game to have on a weeknight game night. Because you can kind of get through a teach and a play and feel comfortable with it and feel relaxed. If it's like for us, like it's like after work, relaxing. Yeah, I will say though, like if we had to pare our games down and it was always going to be like dedicated longer gaming sessions, then Inventions would definitely be a game that I would want to keep and would probably get played a lot more.
Sure.
But that's not what we do most time. And so for 2024, the game that brought me probably the most joy while playing it, which is not just the game, but with the people I was playing, was Metro Runner by Thunderworks Games.
Now, I do have a couple of honorable mentions. So one of them is going to be Frosthaven from Cephalofair Games. Frosthaven, the successor to Gloomhaven. We're currently playing through that.
Yes.
We're like 19 games into it. We're doing a 3-player playthrough. We're probably playing it after we record this. It is... the reason I didn't include
it... You gotta get through it. It's a campaign game. You have to get through the whole thing as quickly as possible, if you're me.
Yeah, except we're going to end up... like it's a campaign game where you could easily suck in 100-plus plays.
I don't see the problem with that.
All right, so the big thing with this is the reason it's not on my list at all is that it's really just more Gloomhaven. It's Gloomhaven mechanisms. It's Gloomhaven.
Yeah.
It's just Gloomhaven
it's just another
repackaged
story.
with some town development. And honestly, the town development piece is the part I don't care for. Like, I just like the more Gloomhaven component of it. I know you and Brian are very much enjoying
I like the
that.
completeness of the story that like comes with it. That's my favorite part about campaign games.
The other game, like. Well, we'll talk about this when we get our
video on campaign games.
Well, yeah, we talk a little bit. We make a little bit of a comparison between this campaign game and another campaign game we played this year that was from Thunderworks Games.
Oh, yeah.
Which is Role Player Adventures, RPA. How dramatically different, and like I would say from Role Player Adventures perspective, I get far more into the story. And the character I was playing, much more Frosthaven and Gloomhaven, it's much more mechanics. Like, I'm not really embracing or getting into the world or the story.
The character I just retired last night, I had a story for that one in my head. I was into it. It had its summons. It was lovely. I enjoyed that in Role Player Adventures. They both have their place. Depending on the audience and what you're looking for, they're just to me, they're very different. They're a campaign game. They have a story. You do stuff. But it's like playing like Yahtzee and Inventions in some ways to me.
Yeah,
they're both games. It is. You're doing stuff.
Another game that's high on my list for 2024, the games that I've played quite a few times, was new to me this year, is going to be from our friends at Sophisticated Cerberus Games. That's The Stifling Dark. This is a one versus many where you're the game
he
very
just
similar.
Gets to kill everyone.
Well, I actually lost like the last 2 or 3 times I played this game.
Good job, whoever played against you.
But the player that's the one is playing a supernatural
mass murderer.
I mean, it's kind of horror filmed kind of theme.
I mean, you don't feel horror when you're doing it unless you're playing in the dark and you have someone creepy like him.
Thanks. But it's you don't have to. It's also a game where unlike a Fury of Dracula or Letters of Whitechapel or Beast or any of these other one versus many games where it's hidden movement on a map. This game, you don't have to beat the bad guy. Like there's not, if the game doesn't come down to,
right?
You could just have to escape. It's just like you watch any horror flick, you just have to escape. And even if you do beat the bad guy, there's always a sequel. So, so it's really cool that way. I love kind of building up the narrative around it as well for the players as they experience it. Very cool little game. From Sophisticated Cerberus, and I hear there's going to be a reprint that's going to simplify some of the components for people, which is, I think, my one big knock and one of the reasons it didn't hit on this as a top 10, but definitely was one of my higher played non-campaign games of the year.
Yeah. Well, since you got some honorable mentions, can I throw in?
Yeah.
I mean, mine would probably be Harmonies by Libelud.
Yeah, this is a really good game.
Which is It's surprisingly good. It's one I had not, like, people, some friends had it, and they're like, oh, I want to play this, I want to play it, and I'm like, well, I'm going to learn how to play it. It's on BGA. And I enjoy it. You're, like, building these habitats with these circles. It's abstract. It's one game that I really enjoy playing online, which I don't usually, like, get into and it's good. There's a lot of abstract games that I enjoy. Like, I really enjoy Azul. Like, it's one of my top games of all times. So, but this one is, we've only played it, I think, in person once. I've maybe played it twice in person, maybe not with you. But I hadn't played it enough to, like, really say if it could be my top 10. But if you're looking for an abstract game, definitely check out Harmonies.
Is on a lot of other people's lists.
It is.
So,
it is. So it's one, we'll give it an honorable mention.
It's definitely.
I didn't realize we got honorable mentions today.
Yeah, I just started making things up. All right, so is that it for you for honorable mentions?
That's it.
All right. I have one final honorable mention, and that is going to be Stone Spine Architects. Now, the reason this is not on my list at all...
Was that a 2024 game?
This we got in our hands in 2024. The reason it wasn't on my list is that I actually played this as a prototype in 2023 at GameHoleCon.
Oh, see, that's why I had it thinking it was older than it was, because you had... Okay.
Nope, this came out right before Gen Con, if I remember right, is when we got our copy.
Oh, this, you definitely need to check this game out.
It came with Hort Gully. Hort Gully got to go travel. Hort Gully is this stuffed Minotaur.
Yes, that was the best.
He got to go travel the UK. It was cool following their social media feed for that.
If you don't already, follow Thunderworks Games on Facebook. And I don't know where else, because then you can see when Horngully goes, or their next plushies go on trips.
But same designer that designed Cartographers from Thunderworks Games, which is an immensely popular flip and write game, one of the best ones out there.
Yes, one of the only ones I play.
And one of the only ones I play too. I actually really love playing Cartographers.
Yes.
But it's a card drafting game where you're building a map.
Of a dungeon.
Building this dungeon, you're kind of the bad guy. You're trying to make a really hard, complex
you get in and
engineer
out
of a dungeon. Well, no, you're supposed to make it so there's like an entrance and an exit,
Yeah.
so the heroes can feel like they have something to quest through or something like that, right? So that you can track those pesky heroes to your dungeon. I really like this game. I really love card drafting games. So like the games like Seven Wonders, I really do love those games. So it's great having this and having it in the collection. And this is another one of those games, just like Metro Runner, which I'm really high on as well. This is another game that I've introduced it to people, and they've went out and bought copies of it.
Yes.
So that's always
I
great.
I've played this so many times. I thought it was older.
No, it's a great indicator on a game if you introduce other people to it, and then they immediately go out and buy it. Like with this, I had at Strong Tower Gaming Convention this year. I ran it once during the convention. I had one of the people at my table go like, how do I get this game? I'm like, well, Thunderworks is right over there demoing it. While they don't have a booth here, I'm sure if you go over and ask them, they can hook you up with a copy. They'll probably have it here for you tomorrow. Well, the next day, she comes bouncing over to my table. Thank you so much. I got a copy. I was like, that's cool. Like, you just made my day, right? I'm getting things kicked off for the day. So, absolutely great experience and another game that meets that honorable mention mark. So, Anyways, that's all of them, I think. I'm not going to try to add any more in there. That's a lot of games.
We played a lot of good games this year.
We have played a lot of new games. We've played a lot of games that we played before. We'll be recapping a bit of our 2024 and our 2024 goals in a upcoming Board Games and Coffee. So stay tuned. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel so that you get notified when that video comes out. And while you're at it, don't forget to let us know what your favorite new-to-you games were in the comments below.
Yep.
We're very curious to see if there's something in those lists that we haven't played yet that we need to check out.
And to help you find these games that we talked about, we'll also make sure that there are links in the description of the video. So that you can go and find them to the publishers and to where you can find it.
Yeah, so all the links will be in the thing below. There'll probably be Amazon affiliate links as well, as my guess. We do definitely support you going out to your local friendly game store to get
Definitely.
any of these games. But if you don't and you want to support the channel, feel free to use any of our Amazon affiliate links to pick up your copies. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great one. Peace out.
Hey there, it's Conesy. Thank you so much for watching. We put out videos weekly here at WiscoDice. Check out our channel for more great videos and don't forget to subscribe. We also have more great content on our website at WiscoDice.com. Of course, we do this all for you, the viewers. So please like the video if you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.